RTD Live Talk, Detroit's #1 late night YouTube talk show. We are live again for a live stream. Excited to be back, and got a couple articles I want to share, and want to find out what's on your mind. And we'll cover, basically a lot of things happening out there, more than one person can touch in one live stream. But looking forward to hearing it from you. So, with that being the case, welcome to this live stream. My name is Mike, the host of RTD Live Talk. As always, if we have any new viewers out there, feel free to let me know where you're watching from, and I would love to acknowledge your presence and welcome you to this live stream. And then I'm going to go through I got about 4 or 5 articles just to cover the subject matter, and then we'll discuss them further as we move along. So, what up? We got Lamar said, "What's up, Mike? How you doing?" We got Captured by Beasley says, "Agreed. They stopped federal funding for testing today to try and slow the numbers down." Yes, so that's definitely something we're going to touch on. We got Roman, we got Spirit King, Phil, and low blood pressure. Jay, M&T from Houston. Appreciate you watching. Simon from New Zealand, land of the long white cloud. How are things in your neck of the woods, my friend? And so, so as we give it a second for more people to chime in and let us know where they're watching from, we got Corey from Corpus Christi, Texas. Alongo. Hey, Mike, how you doing? So a good amount of people are tuning in thus far, and let's dive right into it because I want to open up the phone lines and actually hear from you guys. And so I think this is a great subject to start with because I was trying to figure out how to, entitle tonight's live stream, but I thought I would just leave it open so we can touch on a variety of subject matters. And so one of them happens to be about the mainstream media's push of numbers. And first thing that came to my mind is are they trying to basically prepare us for or eventually put pressure on states to re-lock down or to lock down again, to have another greater lockdown heading into the end of summer, middle of summer, end of summer, however they might try to play this out with all those numbers that they're throwing out there. And then also, as we mentioned, the defunding of the testing and leaving it up to the states to take care of those things. And so, a lot of stuff worthy of talking about. So we'll dive into it. So we got Max from Perth, Australia. All right. So, very first article here, I'm going to pull this up here, and then I'll just share a little bit of it, and then we'll keep moving right along. And so let me get it right here. So here's an article that caught my attention just with the number itself. And it's one of those things where, must have a lot of great statisticians out there that's able to compile these numbers on such short notice. And so here it says some updates. It says U.S. reports 35,000 daily cases. And then we hear about what's happening in New York. I think New York, New Jersey, and I want to say Rhode Island, if I'm not mistaken, where they're looking to quarantine anyone that comes in, I guess, via flight from states that are experiencing increased cases. And so it's one of those things where, how exactly will you be able to enforce the quarantine aspect of people coming into those states? Not sure. But as a result of that, of course, the markets were a little turbulent. And so they mentioned that, it could be because of the increase in cases and da-da-da-da-da. And, of course, we had all this, the tweets back and forth on the China trade deal, whether it's on, whether it's off, all that stuff like that. So a lot of confusion out there, man. But definitely just a confusion alone lets me know that there's more brewing under the surface than we're being told. And, of course, they're trying to, give us the story as to why that is. But yet underneath, we all know that this thing is sinking a lot faster than they would like to admit. And what else we got? Jesse James says, Mike, my barn was rocked by another quake here in California. Really? I heard about that. I heard about the one in Mexico, but I haven't been keeping tabs on the other locations. So let me know if it was some serious damage done out there. Curious to find out about that. So Mr. Bent says a great lockdown incoming, but I think winter most likely. And that's one of the things that's going to be very tough because here in this great state of Michigan, we've had one university right now that canceled University of Michigan Dearborn, one of the small subsidiaries, one of the small sister schools of U of M. They already canceled fall sports, and the sports are primarily outside sports. So I'm thinking this fall is going to be very questionable as far as activity for schooling. And then I was thinking winter's here, is basketball season, things like that. And I can see definitely some lockdown type things. And here in our state, they're talking about trying to come up with the fall curriculum and things of that nature for schools. And so lockdown, if there is another lockdown similar to what we've experienced for the last, was it 90 days, give or take, depending on where you're at, with basically just a closure of businesses, even again, there would definitely be no revitalizing any type of V-shaped recovery, which is impossible anyway. But if we were to finish this year off in a lockdown state, all hell will break loose. And it's one of the things where here in Michigan, because of the weather, it's going to be that much worse to be stuck in a house where you can't even go outside and get some fresh air without freezing yourself to death. So anyway, but we can dive into that. But just some things here I thought was interesting. As it says, U.S. reported 35,000 new cases on Tuesday, among the nation's largest single-day increases since the start of this pandemic. And so, once again, the numbers. Johns Hopkins University, as I mentioned months and months ago, Johns Hopkins and all those people, they're all in this together. They were a part of that great meeting that took place, Event 201, back in, was it September? So they were leading the charge there. So, isn't it interesting? The very same institutions that are leading the way when it comes to the vaccine stuff is also we're also in on that meeting. And then we have Johns Hopkins that hosted the meeting, and everything seems to be playing right into their initial plans of having an 18-month unraveling of our economy until there's some type of cure or whatever they want to throw out there. And here are some more significant developments of the day. It says organizers upended the Democratic National Convention on Wednesday. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin left the door open to extend the July 15th tax deadline for a second time to September 15th. And so once again, I heard of people that's still haven't gotten their original tax refunds. And so assuming they're probably short on staff, the IRS, you name it. Says U.S. stock posted their worst day in nearly 2 weeks. It says New York City Marathon won't be happening this November. Not surprised about that. Texas and California reported all-time high daily new cases. So here's a question I want to throw out there in regards to these numbers that they're giving us. Is it the fact that they are attempting, or they have tested more and therefore the results have come back? And it's one of those things where you really can't really can't trust the results of those tests, because there's been a lot of questionable results with that. But or is it the mainstream narrative looking to further hype up the whole idea that people should be conscious and concerned with this health scare in the midst of summer? Because if they did not do this, people would probably tend to go back to normal or go back to their normal routine, where they wouldn't pay it much attention. So I am curious to hear what you guys think about that. And then on top of that, I saw some articles. Let me know if you have any viewers in the Houston area. But once again, I saw an article mentioning that some hospitals down there are at 97% capacity with newly people, basically there for treatment or whatnot. And so once again, I saw a lot of videos from New York and how beds, hospitals were relatively empty, but yet they were saying cases were high. So, it's two different stories, as I always mention. But let me stop ranting and find out what you guys think. Give me the scoop on that. And so Rotimi says, I thought the heat was supposed to reduce the virus. Yeah, we'll see. Mass equals virtue signaling and stupid. Very good point. And then that's another thing. More states now. I think it's California for sure, and one other state was added to the list of states that are kind of making it mandatory, where you have to wear them outside or whatnot. Not quite sure how that's going to really help them out any. What else we got here in the chat? El Monte, how you doing, my friend? We got Tony B in the building. What it says, the scandemic, the virus is a flu, and it's designed to allow the Fed to buy everything and finish their final solution. Aaron, yeah, I'm down for that. And also to buy time so that they can bring out that next phase of, as I mentioned it last night, the 3 T's of test them, track them, and then tag them. And tag them, what I mean by that is, their so-called solution to this health scare, which will help our economy recover and get back to normal, as they would like us to believe. Okay, so New Orleans is mandatory. Full mask if you can't stay 6 feet away. Full mask if you can't stay 6 feet away. And so, once again, what's the consequences? Because outside of it just being recommended or encouraged by, I guess, the governor there, what's the consequences if you do not? Have they gone so far as to say that you'll be arrested or fined or stuff like that? Arizona. Okay. So I'm assuming you're saying Arizona is another state where they have that little requirement of wearing a mask. Scandemic. ZB Israel says, what about the real estate market? Is now a good time to buy houses or even get into the housing market? Great question, man. And so right now, my personal opinion is that because everything is very unstable, everything is on rocky grounds. I would imagine if there's a lot of people who's, probably sitting heavy in cash that could go out and take advantage of some opportunities. And so if you are one of those individuals, then you can never pass up a fire sale. But I'm of the mindset that give it some time, be patient. The sales will only get better as there's more defaults. And I think, 106 million people up to this point, or within the last month, or up until this point, up until this last month, have basically fallen behind on payments of all kinds. And so that right there equals hell of problems for a lot of people. And therefore, once again, it creates opportunity for those that are able to take advantage of them. So Mark W. says, I put in over 1,000 hours of investigative research into this health scare since it was announced. Mark W., give us the final rundown as to what you think everything is on the surface. So, okay, once again, I'm ranting too much. Let me get to a couple more articles, and then I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on these topics as whatever else is on your mind. And so next article, once again, is very timely. It's it's one of the things that never fails to just entertain us as well as inform us. So the Shark Tank investor, Kevin O'Leary, basically made a statement saying that many businesses are using this pandemic as a cloak to cut jobs. And he talks about how with the whole PPP program kind of being a way to offset some of those potential financial losses by getting subsidized through a loan to keep people on the payroll. And then, of course, President Trump extended it to the end of this year. But along the way, people who receive those funds are still actually laying off, and they're blaming it on other things. So one of the things that caught my attention says many businesses are using this pandemic as a cloak to cut jobs. Says this is great for earnings in the S&P, and it's not great for employment. O'Leary also predicts at least 15 to 20% of the jobs sitting in high rises will remain remote. And so think about this. Small businesses are pretty much the backbone of our country and economy for the most part. And a lot of those businesses, there's been more than enough articles talking about how because of the debt load they were already carrying and the lack of them able to get back to the norm, they cannot be profitable. So therefore, a lot of doors will not be opening. Therefore, those people who took advantage of the PPP loan, if they did that, they were just doing that basically to pay payroll to then eventually have to close their doors by the end of this year. And God forbid there is an extended version or a great lockdown 2.0 or continuation of the first one this summer or fall. That spells lights out for all small businesses primarily, even if you were in good shape, because you will not have any customers, especially if you're in the northern areas where primarily everybody up north in Michigan come fall, winter, we buckle down here because it gets a little chilly. So the northern hemisphere, all the businesses, restaurants, they'll never pretty much be able to be the same because of the capacity issues. So yeah, just one of the things here, this pandemic, as I mentioned before, and I was talking about job losses. Hell, and I was mentioning, actually, for those that might be new to the channel, I was talking about how wherever the automotive sector goes, that's where our country goes. And here in Detroit, having the big three, when they shut down, or when they announced 2 years ago that they were laying off, I think 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, I was not surprised. And they were having issues then. It was a matter of just not being able to be profitable amongst zero environment because everybody's tapped out. And so those are jobs that were bound to be lost anyway. And so the fact they're trying to revitalize and bring things back here, I drove past a lot of factories. I was to see some GM factories that I'm not too far from, and I see them having the tents in front, and they're doing all the testing and stuff like that to bring people back. But if people aren't really buying cars like that, then once again, that's going to be some issues. So if once the big three closes again, if there is another lockdown, there is no reopening it. There will be no reopening. All right. So yeah, let me get to some more articles here. So as always, let me know what you're thinking in the chat. And I saw a question out there. Let me Ben Carson said they are going to turn commercial real estate into low-income housing for the homeless. Really? Lord Hybrid, that is something different. I did not hear about that one. Serena says, in Broward County, Florida, no mask, no service. I tested it, got kicked out of the Dollar Tree, Publix, and Amscott. Really? So, yeah, I went to Home Depot a couple hours ago and did some shopping there, and I was like, I'm not wearing a mask. And sure enough, I wasn't the only one in the store not wearing one. So Celente called it the sadomasochism. Wearing a mask is like castrate yourself for pleasure. Oh, man. Low blood pressure says, $0 cases in Saudi Arabia. The burqa is a solution. Really? I didn't know about I did not hear about Saudi Arabia and what their situation is like. All right. So a couple more articles here. So once again, here's another interesting story here. Just the headlines caught my attention. It said global economy will take a 12 trillion hit from this current situation we're all experiencing. And what stood out was just the IMF says that this current situation could cause the UK economy to shrink by 10.2% in 2020. And so right here we see all these countries already, their GDP will be down, will be readjusted, I'm assuming, as we get through this year, and they really are able to assess the true damage. But look at all these countries, man. Just Italy, Spain, France, they're already having problems. Mexico, United Kingdom, Argentina, hyperinflation before the end of the year for sure. Brazil, Canada, South Africa, United States. Not looking good for all these countries here. There is no growth. There is no production in it right now. It's unfortunate. And then here's something else that really is alarming. It said the Fed said it could supply the economy with $2.3 trillion. It hasn't come close so far. So when I saw this, and they're talking about that, basically, Federal Reserve is nowhere near. They haven't even began what they're going to do as need be down the line. So, and then it talks about some of the money. So this is what I find to be interesting. It says in the 3 months since a slew of programs were announced, the Fed has loaned out $143 billion, or a mere 6.2% of its total firepower. And so you factor in all those lending facilities, which are backed up by the Treasury, and what else? They're buying everything. We got QE up to 120 billion a month. And of this number here, it says they only have done 6.2% of what they're capable of. So I would imagine the rest of that will be coming after July and into September for sure, in my opinion. But what else we got going here? So here's another article here. Nearly 1.1 million Americans on the unemployment face risky job loss period. So what they're saying is by the end of July and further into fall, the 1.1 people approximately, probably in the service sector, will not be going back anywhere. And so that was just an interesting figure of 1.1 million, because if there is another lockdown, it's going to be a lot more added to that. So, and then the very last one here, somebody mentioned this, wanted to talk about this last night, and it's about, this is kind of old, relatively old, but it says BET co-founder calls for $14 trillion in reparations for Black Americans. And so the total would equate to, let me see, 300 or roughly 350,000 for every Black person in the U.S. is what the BET co-founder is saying that is what would be appropriate. So what are your thoughts on that? That 350,000 for every Black person. So I never touched on that beforehand, because when I saw that, I'm thinking like, the number might sound good to those ears that are itching for more funds, but if they only knew that how much more damage it will cause, that they really wouldn't be able to enjoy it fully, then they wouldn't really be wanting no type of reparations of that magnitude. So, because, getting 350,000 worth of paper and digits going to definitely be very inflationary, and it will not go too far. So, but if they were to come out with some silver and gold, I don't think we could probably talk about that. But enough of me ranting, man. Let me hear from you guys right now. I've done enough ranting. Wanted to share with you what was on my mind based upon those articles there. And so let's get into it. Feel free to give me a call. Phone line should be open, and we can talk, because I'm curious to hear what you think about any of the subjects I've touched on or whatever else is on your mind. And then also let me know in the chat if you guys do not want to call in. Let me see here. Reparations 4. And so according to Mr. Johnson, it's due to, and if you actually watch this video here, and he went in depth a lot more, but after basically his reparations, 400 years worth of utilizing and abusing our ancestors and things of that nature, that's the least that they could do for us type of thing. So, but you have to get his full story from him. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, it's Baby Money Bass, Killeen, Texas. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, my friend. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, I got a 10-4 hat moment.
Okay, go ahead. Throw it at me.
All right. So I'm thinking New World Order. Back in the day, they started with the GMO, trying to take over the food.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's baby steps. Now, when it comes to the businesses, this is my theory.
Mm-hmm.
If they giving us a little bit of money and then they giving corporations millions of dollars,
mm-hmm.
I'm thinking they're pushing for small businesses to default. In the end, they can come up and buy more real estate to flip the table. So now we own most of the land in the United States, or worldly. Now we own most of the natural resources. Once it's tipped 90-10,
mm-hmm.
then it's game over, along with all the other stuff that they have incorporated into the package.
Okay, so when you say we, you're referring to those that are probably, the billionaires that are getting richer as a result of this. You talk about them coming in, or the government coming in, or
right. Well, this is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
People got to understand, all the corporations are linked together.
Yeah.
Don't look at none of what they tell you. Everybody is on the same page. First of all, we got to use common sense. You're not even going to be able to have your name mentioned to play ball in this field if you don't have on a uniform.
Yeah.
Everybody got their uniform on.
Okay.
So it's time. It's just timing, and they have to break this stuff down, because they're not going to force anything on us. It's going to be, we're going to want it. They're going to sit back and do things until we're, hey,
desperate.
We have no choice.
Right.
We own all of this. We own the land. We own the food. It's their game, along with 5G network.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I initially, when they threw out that 18-month, it'll be 18 months before we'll have a vaccine, and there'll be 18 months at minimum before we get back to normal. And then you have the IMF coming out saying that it's going to be up until 2022 before we can actually see some type of growth. Something like, they're in this for the long game, and it's unfortunate that majority of the population that have no means whatsoever will be down and desperate. And the goal, as you mentioned, I believe, is to break us down to the point where we are begging for something. And then at that point, they can say, hey, this is what we want for you. Take it or leave it. And of course, the majority will say, hey, give it to me, because it's either that or starve to death, or starve or die, or whatever else. So I do believe that is a part of their designed approach, is to break us down to our bare minimum, to where we're desperate, or the population in general will be desperate.
And one more thing, I'll let you go. Not even getting your own land and having your own homestead is going to make a difference. People got to understand that too. So say you branch off, you got your land, you got your cattle, you have the whole self-reliant platform on your homestead. They're still going to come in and tell you, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And it's all it's all for nothing. So people just got to be careful.
Right. I agree. And so that's the idea. You can prepare as much as you want, but they can always change the rules of the game, which makes something illegal, or you got to register here, or they'll try to tax you or fine you, or to where, it's going to be a continuous fight. But that kind of seems like where we have to go with this. You got to fight till you can't fight no more, man. But hey, I appreciate you calling. Good to hear your voice.
No problem. You too, man. Have a good night.
Be good. Yeah, man. Good call. I appreciate you for sharing your thoughts. So, and that's where I think this is all heading. Jesse James, I appreciate the love offering to the channel, my friend. Thanks for being a blessing. And so, let's talk some more. What are your thoughts on that? So I see some thoughts about the reparations stuff. It's we're still in slavery. And that's one thing I'm in 100% agreement with, the fact that our monetary system, the central banking model itself, has enslaved us all, because our national currency is how they enslave us through debt. And so majority of the population happens to have the need of credit, which ultimately is debt, and is issued by institutions that have no skin in the game other than being able to issue an unlimited amount of credit towards us based upon a credit score and all that stuff like that. So debt slavery, or monetary slavery, is the ultimate slavery because we're dependent on it because it's our national currency. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, how you doing, Mike? This is Daryl from Atlanta.
Daryl, how you doing, my friend? What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, man. So I was looking today, and I saw how the Dow, it was down like whatever amount of points because it was about the coronavirus resurging cases. Investors got scared or whatever. Yeah. So I have a Charles Schwab account.
Okay.
And I would encourage like anybody to like open up a brokerage account because the Charles Schwab account is free to open. And I've been hearing a lot about mining stocks, right?
Yeah.
So I went on Mike Maloney page, and he had an investor talk about a couple mining stocks. So I had ciphered it down to 3. Yeah. And I think you had somebody from Gold Mining Inc. Didn't you interview?
Yeah.
Somebody from Gold Mining Inc. Yes. All right. So I had looked into Gold Mining Inc. I like what he was talking about, and I also looked into Majestic Silver.
Yeah. First Majestic.
From Kegel. Yeah. First Majestic Silver. And then I also looked at Euro Pacific Gold Fund. I don't know if you know Peter Schiff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the moral of the story is I opened up my Charles Schwab account, and my mining stocks and all my gold funds, they're doing numbers. They are doing they're going crazy. So I would like to encourage anybody to like invest in mining stocks.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, have the physical metal.
Yeah.
But the mining stocks, boy, they're doing numbers right now.
Yeah.
Especially the junior miners. But you have to know which the companies to invest in. So I will encourage everybody to do research. But I said, it's just encouraging to see that you can see the stock market going down, but your account just doing numbers, 401ks, pensions going down.
Yeah.
But your account is still going up. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, hey man, I appreciate you for sharing that. Definitely there's opportunity there. And that's one of those things where I've always enjoyed being able to connect with those gentlemen there because it's a reflection of it's another way of having exposure to gold. And so as gold prices go up, as all this turbulence happens, gold and silver are the anchors of our monetary system. So those will reflect in price as well. So, but I appreciate you calling, my friend. Thank you.
All right. I got one more thing.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I got one more.
Yep.
I also heard my coworker was telling me, so his mom got laid off. So her previous job had put her on, what's it called when your job puts you on unemployment, will get you the unemployment checks?
When they put you on, I think it was furloughed, I think.
Yeah, she was furloughed. So she ended up getting the unemployment check. But she was afraid that they was going to ask for the money back, so she ended up keeping some of the money. But anyway, long story short, that some of these states, they end up asking for the money back. For everybody that was trying to get these unemployment checks, they start asking for the money back and stuff like that. So I thought that was crazy. Yeah, I thought it was real crazy. They asked her back for like $9,000. So just imagine that she had to spend all that.
Yeah, and so that's one person out of probably thousands of, if not a lot more. So that's another way of getting caught up because that was one thing I was concerned with. You have the employers that's, telling people you can stay at home, and then the PPP coming in for the purpose of providing paychecks, knowing the employers did not want to do so. But then at the same time, you collect the unemployment. So it looks like it's a double whammy. So it looks like you're getting double for your trouble. But yet, I was a little skeptical in hearing about some of that stuff. But yeah, and so that's a whole other can of worms, man. That sure a lot of people will be, facing. So, but hey, man, I appreciate you for sharing that.
All right, man, no problem.
Yeah, you're good. Cool. Thanks.
Yep.
Good to hear. Good to hear that call there. And so, yeah, the mining stock. So, yeah, that's one of the things. Opportunity there, but it's one of those things where one of my concerns all along is in the short term. Sure, ride it up and have fun with it. In the long term, one of my concerns is that I don't think governments and the powers that be will be very happy with a lot of people, basically, in a sense, taking that, not necessarily betting, because you're simply just putting your money where you believe is going to do you the most good, but also winning. I don't think, that they're going to want you to be winning off mining shares moving forward. So therefore, there's going to be some issues with those mines. That's what I believe in the long term. When things really hit the fan, hopefully you've enjoyed and got some gains and got some profits and got up out of that place, because if you ain't got the physical, when everything breaks down, I wouldn't want to be holding on to promises to pay. But that's just me. What else? What else we got here? It says, have you looked at the investment in Iraqi dinar or Vietnamese dong? I have not looked into, investing into those currencies. I've heard all types of things about how people are holding on to them and thinking about, if their government reboots some things, that they're going to be some type of rebalance swap for the new currency, and you'll be able to make off in those things. I never dived into it, but yeah, there's people out there that actually do that, and I've actually heard from people who have bought into those things and they're not able to get rid of them. So I'd rather just get my weight up, me personally, and that's one of them things where I just feel I just sleep a little easier at night, knowing that I would rather just hold the real thing. And unless I have opportunity to get in, get out of some stuff, I'm thinking about the long haul, like just the preservation side of things, not necessarily profiting, because profiting can be very extremely risky. And as I always say, unless you know what you're doing, I'd rather just sit out and wait for the fire sales and then get in when I fit in. And so Old Head Deuce says, RTD, are many of us slipping on these grants and loans? I can't qualify, but I'm begging cats. I don't know. I have not even thought about it myself, but yet there's people out there that I'm sure is taking advantage of these extremely low borrowing costs. And I know people who are basically refinanced and looking to try to get some equity out of their homes. But other than that, I'm not sure about any of the other things. So anyway, let me hear from you guys. Give me a call. Let's talk a little bit. And I want to go back to, before I got that call about this article here, because I think we can talk about this a little bit. And so $14 trillion in reparations for Black Americans, which would equate to, according to some figures here, $350,000. Would that do any good? Does $350,000 wipe away the centuries of social, physical, financial, generational pain that has been caused due to just the sinful nature of how this planet operates, and having slavery in and of itself? Are there people out there that would cheer that on if, say, for example, Joe Biden came out all of a sudden, and whoever he picks for his VP more than likely will be an African-American female, I would imagine. And if she jumped on saying reparations, we're going to, whatever, how many people are going to go cast their vote for Mr. Biden in the hopes of getting compensated for generational sins of this oppressing nation? I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the chat. Let me see. Dexter Day says silver went on sale again today. Comics say it's 17 and some change. My dealer says 26.29. Yeah, and so I saw that it was 1801 when I looked at it yesterday. I actually went to my little dealer or whatever, and I got him for his last little bit, and he didn't have much, but I paid $23.75 per eagle, and so I snapped some things up quick. But yet, it's the price of silver and gold is whatever you can get it in your hands for. And of course, that's 70. Even if they were to slam it tomorrow, I can anticipate there been some fraudulent activity with the paper market. So even if it went down to $11 an ounce, there still are some people out there saying that silver's not a safe bet because look at they slammed the price down. Okay, go try to get some for $11. Yeah, good luck with that. Chad, did you buy BTC today? No, I did not buy the BTC today. I know as always, there's always opportunities when there's a dip. And so I did not buy any personally. And I'm of the mindset when it comes to, and actually even tomorrow night, I'm having a guest on to share his thoughts and perspective. It's real technical in nature. So we're going to have a good back and forth about the cryptocurrency sector, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all that stuff like that. But I'm of the mindset, of course, buy as much of anything that's undervalued as you can. But then again, when it comes to certain items such as BTC, you don't really need much in order to gain a lot down the line, just because as long as it's priced in dollar terms, it's going to do well. It will not be going back to zero, in my opinion. So you'll always be able to come out ahead in dollar terms. But yeah, it's going to be a matter when it's starting to be priced in something else. Then we'll see. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Baby Money Bass from Clean, Texas. Got something else for you.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Referring to if people would take the money, 350,000.
Yeah.
That would be a horrible idea. People got to wake up, and
yeah.
I mean, they really got to wake up. I watched an interview not too long ago with Warren Buffett, and they asked him if you had all the gold in the world in a big block, and then a big spot of real estate, which one would you take? And Warren Buffett was like, of course I would take the land. He said, because even 50 years go by, a lifetime go by, the block of gold is still going to be the gold. But look what I can turn over with this land over the course of 50 years.
Yeah.
At the end of the 50 years, this land is going to bring me multi-millions, but that block of gold is still going to be a block of gold. So people got to understand that 350,000 is just like that block of gold. It's not going to be worth anything from the time that they give it to you. It's actually going to depreciate from their hands to your hands.
Yeah. Very true. So, and so watch this. Even if you were to receive something of that number and attempted to go out and put it to use for you in acquiring land or buying some real estate or whatever, imagine how fast prices will shoot up if 14 trillion or whatever was brought into existence, to where that 350,000 may not really get you much land, of course, depending on where you're trying to get it from. But it'll be a matter, as soon as it touches your hands, you got to get rid of it quick before people start looking to, make moves or already have a game plan in mind. So it's going to be the first one to get rid of it will probably reap the most benefits of gaining the most for those bucks while they can.
I'm telling you, 350,000. When they hit, you might get the driveway, but you damn sure won't get the house.
All right, man. I appreciate you calling back.
All right,
good stuff. Yes, sir. Oh man, interesting. Yeah, call in. Let me know your thoughts or whatever. Let me see. We got cheat codes here. It says Biden should choose between best candidate, not racially biased candidates. Not that it matters. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I would also agree. But yet, look at my personal opinion when it comes to just Biden and how the Democrats seem to be extremely desperate. Just because as of now, we've witnessed, was it Warren, Sanders, Kamala Harris, and so I guess they put their very best foot forward. And if Joe Biden is what's stuck out of all that, they're doomed. They're doomed from the beginning, because once again, with the whole Me Too movement of people abandoning ship and people coming to the realization that, both parties are not really for you, but the Democratic side especially, they just basically just tell you what you want to hear and promise you what you want, and that's pretty much it. And so it will be worth his while, but yet out of a state of desperation, they're gonna make as many promises. They're gonna have to buy votes. Or if they can't buy votes, they're going to disrupt everything and make sure there is no damn election, in my opinion. And that's why I'm of the mindset that between now and November, especially if we go into that lockdown again because of these numbers of 35,000 cases in a day, the chance of us actually able to have an election will not be present. And then, what will happen after that? If there is no election, or if there's going to be some fraud no matter what, because with absentee ballots, there's issues here in Michigan already. And so, so anywhere I go, there's going to be chaos. And I was telling somebody the other day that, and I'm really concerned that after this current election, if we have one, we may not have anything resembling any formal type of election process from this point on, just because we might be in some type of ultimate chaos state to where, I can't even fathom how bad it could be down the line. But it will not be something where we'll have a choice in many things, unfortunately. But cheat codes, I understand you completely on that, my friend. Let me see here. It says you will get $350,000 worthless dollars. Mike, will you interview Peter Schiff? Natural. I've reached out to Peter, but I haven't heard back from him. So of course I'll continue to reach out to him. We'd love to have him on the show. And I think we all kind of know where he stands at. So he does a great job of laying it out thoroughly in each one of his each one of his live stream rants. So, but definitely I would love to have him on. Still Ahmed says, so for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and against authorities and cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual heavens or evil in heaven. Principalities and powers, man. That is what we're up against. What else? So anyway, let me give you some more calls. Let's talk a little bit. Let me see what else I missed in the chat. Overtaxed, of course. Warren Buffett can say that he wants it, but why is the IMF the third largest holder of physical gold in the world? Central banks cartel been buying since 2007, 2008 crash. Very true. And if you even go back further, it was actually after the .com crash is when China and Russia obviously went in on the idea that, hey, we might be entering the end of the petrodollar system. So let's go ahead and start accumulating. Because at that point, if you look at China's balance sheet, China gold holdings history, you'll see that they were getting their weight up. They were getting their weight up a long time ago. And let me see about here we go. So here's a picture here of China gold reserves. So this goes back, of course, it starts here. This was October 31st, 2015 is the last time this took place. But in 2000, they had approximately 400 tons, according to information here. And right after the .com time frame, once Greenspan dropped rates and encouraged everybody to go out and buy a house, that's when they was like, okay, something's going on. So when Greenspan dropped the rates, that's when they started, getting their weight up. Bam. So little climb here, and then we had, of course, the last Great Recession, a climb there, and then after all that, it's just been straight up, and that's what we know about. So, yeah, they were well aware that there will come a day where they would no longer want to accept dollars. And I was actually watching Gregory Marino's tweet earlier about how, over the last 24 hours, 48 hours, with those tweets and miscommunication amongst the China trade deal, and Navarro saying that it's off and then Trump saying it's on, it's probably already off officially. Like, it was signed in January, phase 1. There's no way we get into phase 2. So what's the point in really carrying through with phase 1 if you can't go through all the steps to roll out the full deal? And of course, Trump, I think the market, so Trump has to play this out, saying that everything is fine with China. And he wants to quiet that whole China narrative down, like right now, and just focus on the election. So if it was to come out that the China phase 1 deal is done, man, that would cause a bloodbath in those markets, boy. I'm telling you, because based upon the tweets that we get and the response from these little somewhat promises of a recovery or reopening, those are what the mainstream media use as buzzwords, or the algorithms use as buzzwords to crank up the markets a little bit. And if some real news gets out, such as phase 1 is canceled, yeah, that's all she wrote. The Federal Reserve going to really cut on that spigot. And then, of course, that generous stimulus that President Trump is talking about, because of the increase of more job losses, they're going to have to be extra generous with whatever that is. So what else it says? Rolf says, most countries positioning for the end of U.S. dollar now, China trying to figure out how to dump the last $1 trillion. Yeah. And so actually, I think China has already figured out how to get rid of that $1 trillion. They're doing something a little bit creative. I want to say I was listening to some commentator, and they were talking about China they're utilizing their reserves, dollar-denominated reserves, to help out failing countries through the IMF or the World Bank. So basically, Argentina right now is having issues. They've already defaulted, as of 3 weeks ago. So right now, there's just a lot of issues there. So what they're going to look to do is China will offer a loan in those reserves in exchange for whatever down the line. And that's how they're going to unload probably the remaining of their balance sheet. They're going to give it out in loans. So they might end up trying to basically put those things to work for themselves and get something out of it. In worst case scenario, knowing that Argentina will default again, it'll be okay because they'll probably get some oil rights. They'll get some land, some natural resources out of the deal, which is a win-win because you don't have anything to lose when, you get something in return as far as real tangible assets from a country. So that's what I think. It says, rethinking out, Mike, heard anything with the new Silk Road? Not officially. I heard something about something with South Korea and Silk Road, but I didn't dive into it. So nothing new is really going on with that. Yeah, I'll leave that alone. It says China already has a digital yen, digital yuan, and are working on canceling US dollar value. Starting to making. Very true. So the digital yuan is already out there, and the CPAS payment system is out there. Okay, so China and Russia definitely know what's going on. Russia's probably in the best position because they're not heavily indebted, and their books is relatively, mild. And so they're in a great position to, come out in a better situation, even though the Russian ruble has devalued heavily over the last year or two. What else? Anyway, so give me a call. Let's talk a little bit more. And if not, we're going to get ready to dial back. But a lot of stuff happening out there, man. But I think these numbers are being given to sow some seeds of fear inside of us that what happened if the cases spike again? Same thing that happened last time. Governors, especially those governors. And one of my concerns is that Governor Whitmer here in Detroit and New York and all the Democratic states that are anti-Trump momentum will definitely probably respond quickly. And as a way of keeping the numbers down, they would probably say, we're going to go on lockdown just to prevent, or we're going to restrict travel from states that are heavily impacted, all that stuff. So at this point, nothing will surprise me. Nothing will surprise me at all. And so got a call here, and we'll make this the last one for this evening. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Mike. This is Avocado Joy from Tampa, Florida.
Hi there. How you doing tonight?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So this week, they passed something here where if we don't wear a face mask, we get up to a $500 civil citation.
Really? Interesting.
Yes. Yes. It's quite alarming. So I urge people to do their research. So because I went onto a website for my city, Tampa Bay Times, and I looked at their exemptions for wearing a face mask. One of the exemptions is anyone who has pre-existing health conditions that would be adversely affected by a face mask. So I said, okay, all right, pre-existing health conditions. There's a whole list on pre-existing health conditions.
Yeah.
So I said there's asthma, there's acne.
Yeah.
So I'm just laughing because there's a whole list of pre-existing health conditions that actually we could apply. And I don't know if it's for if these exemptions are the same in every city or every state.
Yeah.
But I know you do have listeners. I've been listening to you for years, and I know you have listeners in Tampa. So I'm urging those that are in Tampa and in other states just to look and see because the rules for the face mask are different from the rules on the CDC website.
Right. I don't doubt it. And so as you're speaking, I pulled up something here from Tampa Bay, Tampa area. So I'm going to read it off a little bit. But thank you for calling and sharing that information because I mentioned it earlier in the show. So I'm glad to actually hear some details and get a chance to see. Says it gives more details as to what they're trying to enforce. But once again, how will they be able to tell, and how will they let you say, yeah, I got asthma or I have whatever? How will you prove that, and how will they let you off with that? So it's going to be a lot of chaos with that one. So yeah, but so if there's an uptick in, all right, see you later. Appreciate you calling.
Yes, all right.
So yeah, that's interesting, because I'm thinking like if that's happening in Florida as well as other places, then I would guarantee they're gonna try to do that here if there is a second situation here in Michigan. But here's a little information here, and then we'll dial back with this one. It says in Tampa, you need to wear a mask anytime you're inside a public space where you cannot stay 6 feet away from people. It says first, what about kids? Yes, the mayor's office says this applies to children over the age of 2, especially if they are indoors. But if they do not need to wear it inside, if they can maintain 6 feet distance. So it sounds like what Tony mentioned earlier. If you can't get your 6 feet, then you got to wear a mask. What about people with health problems? No, you do not have to wear a mask if you're covering your face. Would make it harder to breathe or cause. Yeah, like I have, okay. Everybody, I'm sure, would say I have health problems. Or yeah. And so third says, what about coworkers who are socially distancing? No, if coworkers are able to maintain 6 feet of distance, then no worries. Besides exceptions, everyone in Tampa needs a mask inside public places. No wearing one could get you a civil citation and carry up to $500 fine. So, yeah, good luck with that one. But then there's going to be those. There's going to be some knuckleheads out there that's going to try to enforce that and really go overstep their boundaries. God forbid we have another instance where law enforcement gets a little frisky, and put their hands on somebody, and we have another incident due to the fact that someone's not wearing a damn mask. And that's how crazy things are these days. What else we hear? Questions. It says, Spirit King says, you've to have a medical comparative of your condition. Medical. And I know that, well, that'll be interesting. That will be interesting. I got maskatosis. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, hey people, it's been great hanging out. We're about that 50-minute point. As always, it's been great to hang out and hear from you guys. And if you have enjoyed the back and forth, you can't go on Bay Times. You have to go in the health department. Yeah, but that's one of the things where I just type in whatever comes up first. I scan through it and I take it for what it's worth on the surface, knowing that it'll be probably a lot longer and lengthy and full of all types of buzz, field words, just to say the same exact thing going to the health department. So, but what else? Anyway, that being the case, everybody, be blessed, be safe. It's been great hearing from you guys. As always, if you've enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. And then any information you need us is down below. And I will see you guys tomorrow night. As I mentioned, I have an interview tomorrow. Going to be talking a little bit about cryptocurrency and some of the pros and cons, and go a little more in depth into the technology side of things. So looking forward to having our discussion tomorrow. But other than that, be blessed, be safe. I will see you guys later. Peace.